Hi guys, so I just want to thank any new subscribers and then any old subscribers that haven't subscribed for a while. I just really appreciate your guys' support. It has meant the world to me, so thank you so much. Today I'm going to do a video on something a little bit different, which I feel like I kind of say somewhat often. But today I wanted to talk about the topic of embarrassment and failure and things like that. So, yeah, I'm also trying not to ramble as much in the beginning of my videos because I realize I do that and take a long time to get to the topic. So I'm trying to get better at that. But I really hope this video can help you guys in some way that is something you're going through or will go through in the future. And I really hope it can just encourage you some way. So I want to talk about those times when you feel like you're trying something and maybe you feel like you have embarrassed yourself, or let's even talk from a standpoint and perspective of you're getting ready to do something. Perhaps you've been struggling with a lot of things in your life. Perhaps you're starting to gain a little bit of momentum. And so you're taking steps to do something, right? So I want to talk about, a lot of us, maybe if you're like me, just as humans, I think to some capacity, what we will do is we will look at the destination we want to be in our lives and we will feel like it's so far away and we'll feel like it's so daunting to the point that that very trepidation that we feel and how far away that feels can kind of make us not take action. Or we can kind of have this mindset of, oh, well, where I want to be is so far though, and I'm so, you know, away from that, away from what I want to do, or away from that place I want to be in my life. We can start feeling like, oh, I'm never going to make it to that point. And sometimes what can happen when we do that is, we can use all this energy, all this effort, feeling like that, kind of saying all these things. Then if we put our energy toward taking steps and taking another step and taking another step and taking another step. And maybe for many of you, there's something that you want to reach in your life or a place you want to be in your life. And sometimes that can literally just be a place of wellness. It can just be a place of mental wellness because you haven't felt that way for years. So sometimes that very destination can just be that, and that can feel daunting. It can feel like I'm never going to make it to that point because I've been struggling with this for so long, or I've been trying this and trying that and nothing's working. So sometimes that very place can just be a place of wellness in your life where you feel good. But sometimes when it comes to those destinations we want to reach in our lives, or those places we want to reach in our lives, whatever it may be, whether it's something that you want to do, something you want to achieve, if it's mental wellness, etc. Sometimes we can hear different people's voices in our lives that can really plant a lot of doubt and sometimes a lot of anxiety, and we can have our own fears that get mixed with that, where people can make you feel like, oh, you're never going to do that. Oh, you're too far away from that. Who do you think you are to do that? Just essentially all those different words. And sometimes it's just our own minds that will kind of create those doubts, those fears, that second guessing. But sometimes when we're dealing with all of that, we can feel like we're so far away from where we want to be. We can start feeling like, oh, it's never going to happen. Because maybe we do feel really far from where we're supposed to be, and maybe we have been through a lot of things, and we're just now getting a little bit of momentum going in our lives. But we can look at that and we can feel like, I'm never going to be able to make it to that point in my life. That it's like we make things harder than they need to be. There's been so many years in my life where I have thought about places I wanted to be in my life. Frankly, I never could have gotten to this place, without God. And, I share a lot about like all the things that God has done in my life, the healing He has done, and all that, in hopes that for you guys, you will be able to experience that too, and you will be ministered to in the way God has used different things to minister to me as well. But kind of lost my train of thought, sorry. But, we can start feeling like we're so far away from where we're supposed to be. For me, there's that train of thought. For me, so many years pass by where I would be like, I want to start taking action toward this. I know that's like really far away from where I am, but I want to stop being scared to take action. I want to stop being scared to embarrass myself or, build up to something. Because a lot of times I think about those things in our lives, even, getting to a place of mental wellness. A lot of times I think of it kind of like a staircase almost, or like stepping stones. So like you take a step, and then you take another step, and then you take another step, and then you take another step, and it's like it is climbing upward to that place you're trying to reach. It is helping you. It's helping you grow. It's helping you progress. It is making a difference every step that you take. And a lot of times we think how many steps something takes, and it feels so daunting, and we feel so far away. But it's like when we start taking steps, they accumulate. They accumulate to the point that, when we start taking action, we will be amazed not only about the progression of our lives, but also the closer and closer we're getting. But sometimes part of that journey, there can be embarrassment, and there can be failure, and there can be feelings of shame and things like that I think really hold us back from reaching the places that we want to reach in our lives. And I really believe, living up to our fullest potential and all that we are truly capable of. And so many times, like I've said, you've maybe have had things said to you, or you maybe have learned to perceive yourself in a certain way that you think that all you are capable of is, a certain thing or a certain limit. Because maybe you are in a certain place in your life, and it feels like no matter how hard you've tried, you have struggled to progress over that, essentially. And I know what that feels like. So I'm speaking from personal experience where I felt like that for so long. So I want you to understand that every step that you take in your lives, it makes a difference. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like, oh, I'm just taking steps. But if you keep taking those steps, whatever it looks like for you, whatever has proved to be helpful or beneficial to you, but when you take those steps, and I think especially when you are taking steps and you are spending time in God's presence and really understanding His love for you and how He sees you, and really taking it and meditating on His Word, I think just amazing things happen. And I think He just works in our lives in really, really amazing ways. But you couple that with partnering with Him and taking action in your life and in taking the steps that will be good for you, will be positive for you, man, it can just be really, really huge. So, now that we are approaching a new year, I really hope that this can be the year where if there is something that you've wanted to do or there's a place you wanted to reach in your life, that, you'll just start taking steps. I remember, looking back at like last year, even the year before, and I never could imagine I could be in this place in my life. And like I said, all the glory goes to God. But I never could imagine I could be in this place in my life. I felt very paralyzed by fear and anxiety and doubt to go the direction that I didn't realize God was leading me in. And I felt like I was struggling with certain things, and the enemy had attacked certain things. So, like, how could I ever do anything like that? But I started taking steps. Some of them were hard, and I felt like I couldn't do them, and I really kind of struggled with things first. And I want to say, sometimes when you do that, there's embarrassment that can come up, and sometimes a sense of shame. But sometimes when we start taking those steps toward that place we want to be in our lives or those things we want to achieve, perhaps, dreams or aspirations you have, of course, they can feel extremely daunting. But a lot of times when we start taking those steps and, we like, we don't have it all figured out. We don't know what we're doing. We're in a certain place of our lives. Maybe we've been struggling for a long time. So it's like we feel like we're taking these very shaky steps. We feel like our voice is shaking. We feel like full of fear. We can feel like, who am I to do this? All these different things. The words that we've heard in our past, or even that our mind has told us, or the enemy has try to tell us and try to convince us of can ring through our minds and, spiral us deeper into that place of self doubt and second guessing and fear and anxiety. And when we take those steps, sometimes we can feel like we're embarrassing ourselves. And maybe you can relate, maybe you cannot, but I know for me, when I like got out of everything that I had dealt with mentally, because there's something about going through that can just knock you to such a low place in your life, and there's so much shame that we internalize from a societal standpoint. For me, just feeling like I could live my life after that, after I felt this immense weight of shame, that alone was like a really big obstacle for me. Like when you feel like you're struggling for so long, and maybe you feel like you've struggled in front of people, sometimes we internalize a lot of shame. Sometimes from society, sometimes people around you, sometimes just our own like shame that we feel because we, thought we would be in a different place in our lives or amongst other things. I don't know if anyone is like feeling that right now, but I want you to know I know how heavy that weight feels. And I really hope the messages that I speak on my channel can really help to dismantle that shame that we often take on and internalize. Because I know it's really, really heavy. And sometimes people don't understand. And sometimes, people can treat you a certain way, whether or not you're dealing with that. Or let's say you're dealing with situations where, like, maybe there has been people that have been, like, tearing you down or speaking badly about you or just mistreating you or bullying you or whatever the case may be. It's like when we experience that, we can feel this sense of shame. we can feel this sense of shame about ourselves. We can feel like, how can I show my face, let alone how can I like move forward with my life? How can I take the steps that I want to in my life when I feel this heavy, immense weight of shame? I just want to say, like, I know to some extent what that feels like, but I want you to know that it was possible. And I want this video to really encourage you and help you just take in that, we don't have to carry that weight of shame. And I hope this video will really empower you. Whatever you're trying to accomplish, whatever place you're trying to reach in your life, I really hope that it can just really motivate you and empower you. So, when we feel that sense of embarrassment, maybe you tried doing something, maybe perhaps you're starting to take steps, maybe your voice feels really shaky, maybe your hands are trembling, but you're taking those steps. And I want you to know it takes such a tremendous amount of courage to do that. And here's the big thing that I didn't realize. But if you are able to take those shaky steps, if you're able to take those steps, even when you feel so far from where you are, it's literally like if you take that mindset with you, you're going to reach that place that you're trying to reach. Because you're willing to take those steps, even in those moments, do those things that feel really big and daunting, even in those moments where you feel like your hands are trembling and your voice is shaking. Because what's going to happen is that as you take those steps, is those fears that have felt like you've been in bondage to and have imprisoned you, those fears are going to lose their power. There's this really interesting thing called exposure therapy, and a lot of times they do it with like different anxiety people have. But how exposure works is you face these fears that bring up a lot of anxiety for you, and then you repeatedly expose yourself to them, and you kind of keep climbing up based on like, okay, like what's something that is challenging but like I can handle. It's not just going to completely bring my anxiety up to the roof. So then what happens is you keep building and you keep building, but what happens is as you are exposing yourself to those fears and those anxieties, is your mind is going to learn, hey, I don't have to be afraid of this. And those fears, they're going to lose their power. So particularly if you have fears you're facing, what's going to happen is as you have the courage and the willingness, no matter how scared you may feel, but it's just huge just to take that step, is those fears are going to lose their power. You're just going to be built up a little bit more and 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 a little bit more. And those fears, they're no longer going to be able to imprison you anymore. Your mind is going to learn, hey, I don't have to be afraid of that. So that fear that you feel in the initial stages of things, in the beginning of things, when you take those shaky steps, that feels so incredibly intense, it's going to keep decreasing and decreasing and decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. And in the process, you're going to get stronger, or at least you're going to feel stronger, because those fears that feel so overwhelming, they're not going to feel like that the more steps you take and you're conquering those anxieties that have tried to keep you from doing things in your life. So I know for everyone relating to this topic, it's not always about like fears and anxieties, but I feel like for a lot of us, um, we all have different fears and anxieties that really kind of hold us back and try to keep us from doing things. But I think that's the really amazing thing about when we start taking those steps, even if they're shaky, even if we feel like we're embarrassing ourselves because we feel like we're so far from where we're supposed to be, whatever thing you're trying to take on, whether you're writing, whether you're doing a sport, whatever you may be trying to do, if you're trying to achieve anything. Um, that's the really amazing thing is like even when we feel like we are embarrassing ourselves and like, you know, not doing something properly, well, one, you're going to grow, but two, those fears are going to decrease. But to have the courage to take that step in the first place, even when you feel like you're so far away from where you're supposed to be, I'm telling you, that is everything. Because if you can do that, then you can take the next step, and you can take the next step, and you can take the next step. And nothing has to stop you. So to anyone that is in that place in their life, if you have felt like you embarrassed yourself and it's like you want to throw in the towel and quit, I really, really recommend that you don't. I recommend that you keep going. Because you're not going to be in that same place forever. One thing that I realized this year was there were things that scared me a lot. And a lot of it particularly was related to aspirations that I had. And I felt like I was too far away from. But here's the thing, God is the one that wants us to face our fears head on. He wants us to jump out of our comfort zones. I was trying to think of the right word for it, but really truly, like, not to just live a life that's practical and safe, but I really believe, God wants us to live our lives to the fullest. And He wants you to reach, your fullest potential that you have and the gifts and abilities He's put in you. And I really believe that. I believe we have one life. And a lot of people will look at that in that way of like, we have one life, so like, let's just do all these different things, Like back when YOLO was like a saying people said. But when I think of that and I think about the fact that we have one life, I think about, if you can do anything in your life, you didn't say like, oh, I can't do this, or oh, this is too far away from where I am, or, I could never be this person. If you could do anything with your life, what would you do? And I also think about this from eternal perspective. Like if you live your life to the fullest, and again, this doesn't always have to be in big things, but if you live your life to the absolute fullest, so that one day when you take your last breath, you could say, wow, I, you know, I lived my life to the fullest, I didn't let certain dreams or aspirations just literally, vanish. Like I used the things that God put within me, the abilities He's put within me. I fulfilled the purpose that He had for my life. I I just I didn't spend my life wondering what if, well, what if I did that? What if I went after that? And like I said, I feel like a lot of us fears and anxieties and things that we've been told, and just feeling so far away keeps us in that place of what if, and keeps us from taking steps and going after those things that we want to. And I know what it's like to have things that eat at you your whole life, and you get to a point where you're like, I can't take it anymore. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I have to do this. That's actually partially how this YouTube channel got started. So cool. Um, to some extent. um, but I didn't know how that was gonna go, and I have all of you subscribing, and I didn't know if I had anything that people would listen to. I knew that God was, showing me things and teaching me things and ministering to me, and I knew that it impacted my life, but I didn't know that had I, you know, because I had the courage to start YouTube channel because I felt God leading me to, that God would meet me there, and He would reach people and people's lives would be impacted by videos that I posted. I had no idea, but you know, I guess my point is sometimes that you know, we we have different dreams, we have different aspirations in our lives that we can feel like are so daunting, or we don't see ourselves in that way. Like, no, I'm not that person, or maybe we feel like we're struggling with so much anxiety or self doubt or something, that we never sometimes take action on those things. And, you know, I want this year, I want this year to be the year that we start taking steps so that when we get to the next year, we're like, wow, I took those steps this year. I made this progress. I finally started taking steps toward those aspirations, or toward those dreams, or toward those things I wanted to achieve, or toward that place of mental wellness, or, whatever you're trying to reach or achieve in your life. Sometimes when we have those times where we feel like we embarrass ourselves, or we feel like we have failed, sometimes when we have started taking steps, it's like sometimes we just want to stop, or want to throw in the towel, and it's very tempting. But sometimes we look at the ways that we think we failed. Sometimes we judge ourselves really harshly, or we magnify those failures, or there are even people in your life that will point out things that are failures. But I want to ask, are they really failures? Are they really failures when, you took steps in your life? You had the courage to go after something that really matters a lot to you, that you feel passionate about, or to go after something that, you know, has been an uphill battle, like I said, whether it's mental wellness or certain achievements. Is it really a failure? Is it really a failure if you're not where you want to be, or you feel like you embarrassed yourself because you feel far away from where you're supposed to be, but you took those steps? And that is huge. I want to just encourage anyone that feels like they failed at something. I feel like sometimes, if you've ever thought like me that, because I wasn't in a certain place in my life, or because I was struggling for a long time, that like I was a failure, that my life was a failure, but that wasn't true. And I want you to know too, like, it's never too late. I want you to know, this is the moment that things could change. And like I said, things feel so daunting sometimes. But if we just take things one step at a time, those stepping stones build up. If you have felt like you have failed at something, it gives us a chance where we can really see, okay, what's working, what's not. Okay, let me clear out of this. Let me change this. And that's what I want you to know about failures. Where, a lot of times I think of failures and I think of them as like they're perceived failures. Now I know, regarding this topic, let's say someone opens up a business, let's say they don't get a lot of business, let's say they have to shut it down because they're not making enough money. Now, I know technically with this topic, we would see that as a failure. And I'd be like, well, what do you do in that instance? But I want to encourage not only myself, but anyone watching that we can take those experiences and we can see, okay, you know, how can I improve this? How can I make this better? When we feel like we failed, or we've embarrassed ourselves, you know, we don't have to hide in shame. Because even if people make you feel a certain way or like try to say certain things or point out things, some of the greatest inventors, they, it took them so many tries to get their invention right. I believe it's Thomas Edison. He has a lot of really good quotes. And he talked about, um, I I didn't fail. I just found 250 ways that didn't work. I want to highlight that perseverance and that persistence. We wouldn't have the light bulb if it weren't for Thomas Edison. I believe Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. My lights. I wouldn't have my lights. Granted, someone probably maybe would have invented a light bulb at some point. But I want you to understand that, some of the people that we, look up to are the people that have created these amazing inventions. Not only have they faced a lot of adversity and things in their life, or, they experience what a lot of the world would see as, failures. But people like this, they went on to change the world with their ideas, change the world with their inventions. And it's pretty incredible. A lot of times when we feel like we're failing or we feel like we're not, progressing in the way we want, it's like we want to throw in the towel, we want to quit. There's a sense of embarrassment or shame we feel, or we feel like we're not where we're supposed to be. But I just, want us to reflect on that there are so many people in life that, things didn't work out at first. Perhaps there were many, no's and rejections and doors slammed in people's faces, let alone, us just talking about Thomas Edison. But I want us to look at, people that didn't give up. And what happened is eventually it happened, that moment, that light bulb moment where things clicked, things worked. And I just really, I think, want this video to be an encouragement not to give up on your dreams, not to give up on your aspirations, and not to let the places that you are in your life and how far away that dream feels, or that aspiration, or that achievement, or mental wellness, whatever you're trying to achieve in your life. I want it to be a reminder that, we don't have to give up. We don't have to throw in the towel. And I want you to understand you don't have to feel ashamed of yourself if you feel like something didn't work out. And I want you to know that it literally just takes so much courage just to literally take that step, just to literally try to do something. I want you to know that. I want you to know that that matters so much. And that you would give yourself credit. Like, truly, it is amazing. Sometimes when it comes to failures, sometimes it's the internalized shame, the weight of our perceived failures. I think of failures in that way, that sometimes it is the shame that we internalize from society of the weight of our perceived failures. So what we think are failures. What we think are failures can often be these times where, we can learn, right? We can learn from mistakes if there were mistakes that were made. And a lot of time we take on that shame from society and we internalize it. And I don't know if anyone else can relate, but sometimes we're just trying to climb out of this hole you feel like you are in your life, out of this pit you feel like you have been stuck in your life, and you're trying to grapple and climb your way out. Sometimes, it's like we can just have like a lot of shame that it's like, if you're anything like me, you just want to like lay down and you just feel tempted to give up and throw in the towel. You just want to like pull the covers over your head. Like, you can just feel this sense of very immense shame where it's like, I don't even, want anyone to see me, it's just like, I just want to hide away when we feel like we have failed. And I felt like that for a long time. I felt like, I couldn't do anything differently. Like that that was my cycle for a long time, because that shame just felt so heavy. And we could just feel like if we don't meet like our standards and expectations in our head, and like this image of like who we want to be, or like we're trying to be, and we feel like if we fall short, it can feel like that's just not acceptable. And that feeling that we failed can just weigh so heavy over our heads. So I want to just encourage you to kind of look at the way that we see failures in our lives. or even, being afraid to take steps because of fear of failure. And to understand, like, these can be amazing opportunities. And even in and of itself, sometimes failures can be, or those times we feel like we embarrass ourselves, they can be times where, we can detach more from people's opinions, or feeling like we constantly have to succeed in our lives. It can actually be really huge for us to get comfortable with knowing that when we fail or when we feel like we embarrass ourselves, it doesn't have to make us hide away from the world. It doesn't have to make us feel ashamed of ourselves. And I hope you truly know that. I hope, it's like we can use those failures or those times we feel like we embarrass ourselves. We can literally use them as fuel to just keep going, keep going, keep going. And, say we're not going to give up till we get to that place we want to be. But I also want to highlight that, we can really learn to appreciate those moments leading up to everything and appreciate the journey. There's a quote that I used to kind of say, it's one that I made up and I'm going to try to remember it. But I said that, the places in our lives that we want to reach can seem daunting. I can't remember exact words I used, but if we do something every day to get us to where we want to be in time, we will reach our destination. And I really believe that. So I hope that this year, as it's already started, it can be the year where you start taking those steps that you want to and that you don't let anything hold you back. That if you have lived in fear, if you have lived in self-doubt, anxiety, etc., it has kept you from taking those steps that you want to take in your life, whatever they may be. I really, really hope that this can be, even just after watching this video, this can give you motivation to know that you can, step forward in spite of that fear. That you can confront it head on. That you can take those steps, and every step you take matters. But I also hope that, this can really be a time where you really, really learn to celebrate every single step of progress that you make. Not just focusing on, okay, where do I want to be, but every time that you face a fear head on, every time you do that very thing that you think you can't do, that, you would just celebrate it and you'd be so proud of yourself and just understand, how amazing that is and how amazing just that every single step that you are taking is. So, yeah, this has been a very different video, but I really hope that you guys can get something of value in this video, and I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. When I'm trying to make this video, in terms of reframing our failures or those times where we feel like we've embarrassed ourselves, and to know that, we feel like other people are looking down or pointing that out, or we feel that sense of shame. But if we can break past that sense of shame and we can use it, like I said, as fuel, then it's like when we have those times, it's like they feel like they matter so much, they can make us feel really bad about ourselves. But it's like sometimes it is just the internalized shame of the weight of our perceived failures. So that shame we internalize of the things that we perceive as failures that maybe they're not really failures, but opportunities. I think I had a wallpaper on my phone saved on there for a while, and I really, really liked it. But what it said is there are no mistakes, only opportunities. And I was just like, oh, that's good. I didn't fully get it, but I had it on my lock screen for a while that I finally started getting it. I was like, wow. So when we make mistakes, when we have those moments where we feel like we embarrass ourselves or we have those moments of failure, they are opportunities. They are opportunities if you look at them that way. They are opportunities where, we can get to that point where we are having a success, or we are achieving those things that we want to. And I hope that as we each are perhaps going toward different goals, or maybe you've set resolutions, or you're starting to take those steps in your life. Like, I don't have any resolutions I've made, but I recommend, like, if you don't have any resolutions either, that this just be the year where you you know ask yourself, what things have I always wanted to accomplish, but I've been scared to, but I have felt have been so far away or felt so daunting. And I want to encourage this to be the year where you start taking those steps, those baby steps, those shaky steps. And I want to encourage you to start taking those steps. What steps can you take so that by the time the end of the year comes, you're closer to that place that you didn't think that you could be, or that place you want to be that once felt so daunting, but you're a few more steps closer. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video, even though it was very different. And I hope you guys are doing good. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you.